hidden in plain sight. The Galactic Confederation had a simple policy when it came to expanding its influence: evaluate, intimidate, assimilate. In their thousand-cycle history of galactic expansion, this approach had never failed them. Species after species had fallen into line, accepting the benevolent guidance of the Confederation after witnessing the awesome technological might their envoys displayed. High Commander Vazix stood on the observation deck of the inevitable Dominion. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the blue-green planet rotating slowly on the main view screen. "Primitive," he murmured, his translator implant converting his clicking language into the standard galactic common. Another world of savages playing with rudimentary technology while thinking themselves masters of their domain. Science Officer Nilith approached, her tentacles carefully manipulating a data tablet. "The assessment is complete, High Commander. The species calls themselves humans. They've achieved basic spaceflight, but haven't established any permanent presence beyond their lunar satellite. They've sent primitive probes to neighboring planets, but nothing beyond their solar system." "Weapons capabilities?" Vazix asked, never taking his eyes off the view screen. "Nuclear fission and fusion, primarily. Some directed energy weapons in early testing phases. Nothing that could penetrate even our scout ship's shielding," Nilith replied. "They appear to waste most of their technological development on entertainment and comfort rather than defense or expansion." Vazix made a gesture of dismissive contempt, a ripple passing through his exoskeleton. "The usual story. A species that has never faced a true challenge from beyond their world rarely develops the will to defend it properly. Send the standard ultimatum. Give them 48 of their planetary rotations to respond. And if they refuse?" Nilith asked, already knowing the answer. "Then we demonstrate why that would be unwise," Vazix replied. "Prepare the first contact intimidation protocols. I want a display that leaves no doubt about the consequences of defiance." On Earth, Commander Ilara Chen stood in the heart of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, staring at the massive holographic display showing the alien vessel in high orbit. To the public, this facility was still officially decommissioned, a relic of Cold War paranoia. In reality, it had been expanded 100-fold, burrowing deep into the mountain and housing the nerve center of the Earth Defense Initiative. "They're exactly where we predicted they'd be," she said, her voice calm despite the gravity of the moment. "Right at the optimal observation distance for a species with their level of technology." General Santos nodded beside her. "The honeypot is working perfectly. All our decoy satellites and primitive space stations are transmitting exactly as planned. They're seeing what we want them to see." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Humanity has been preparing for this day for over a century. Ever since the Roswell incident gave us proof we weren't alone." Few people knew the truth, that the crashed craft in 1947 hadn't been an accident, but a deliberate gift from a passing species that had observed humanity's potential and wanted to give them a fighting chance against what they knew was coming eventually. The technology recovered had accelerated human development by centuries, all hidden behind a carefully constructed facade of normal technological progression. "They're broadcasting, Commander," announced Communications Officer Park. "Standard radio frequencies. They're not even trying to be subtle." "Let's hear it," Chen ordered. The message was predictable in its arrogance. The voice, clearly processed through some translation system, outlined the opportunity for Earth to join the Galactic Confederation, to benefit from their guidance and protection, in exchange for reasonable resource contributions and acceptance of Confederation authority. "They're giving us 48 hours to respond," Park added after the message ended. "And if we refuse?" asked General Santos, although everyone in the room knew what the aliens intended. "Then they'll give us a demonstration of why we shouldn't," Chen replied, "just as the Arturians warned us they would." She turned to her executive officer. "Commander Rice, it's time to activate Phase 1 of the Ultimatum Protocol. Let's show our visitors that humanity isn't quite what they think we are." Aboard the inevitable Dominion, Vazix was surprised by the speed of the human response. A mere 6 hours after their ultimatum was delivered, a transmission was received from the planet. "They wish to meet with us," Nilith reported. "They're requesting a face-to-face meeting with our representatives on their International Space Station." Vazix made a sound of amusement. "Their primitive orbital platform. How quaint. They'd probably think meeting us in space shows their advancement." He considered for a moment. "This works in our favor. We can easily demonstrate our power by neutralizing their space station if they prove difficult. Prepare a delegation. I want you to lead it, Nilith." "As you command," she replied, though her eye membranes flickered with what might have been concern. The shuttle from the inevitable Dominion approached the International Space Station with what the aliens believed was impressive precision. To the humans monitoring every movement from hidden facilities across Earth and beyond, it was practically clumsy. Inside the ISS, Commander Chen waited alongside a small delegation of world leaders, actually highly trained EDI operatives with fabricated public personas. The real-world leaders were safely ensconced in bunkers deep underground, ready to emerge only when the situation was secure. "They're docking now," reported one of the astronauts, his expression deliberately neutral. Their approach was exactly as predicted. Chen nodded. "Remember, everyone, we appear impressed but not intimidated, curious but cautious, and above all technologically inferior." The airlock cycled, and 3 alien figures entered the module. Their appearance, vaguely insectoid with 4 limbs and chitinous exoskeletons, matched exactly the descriptions from the Arturian records. The lead alien, smaller than the others with iridescent purplish skin, stepped forward. "I am Science Officer Nilith of the Galactic Confederation," the alien announced, its translator device producing surprisingly natural-sounding English. "I speak with the full authority of High Commander Vazix and the Confederation Council." Chen stepped forward, extending her hand in a deliberate gesture she knew the aliens wouldn't understand. "Commander Ilara Chen, representing the United Earth Alliance." It was a fictional organization created specifically for this encounter. The alien ignored the outstretched hand, instead activating a small device that projected a holographic display. "We have analyzed your world and find it suitable for incorporation into the Confederation. Your species will benefit greatly from our guidance." "That's very generous," Chen replied carefully. "However, we have some questions about what this incorporation would entail." "Your questions are irrelevant," Nilith stated flatly. "The alternative to acceptance is demonstration. Observe." On the holographic display, an image appeared of a small asteroid in Earth's vicinity. A beam of energy lanced out from what must have been another Confederation vessel, and the asteroid disintegrated into dust. "That was a minimal weapons discharge," Nilith explained. "Your entire orbital defense capability could be neutralized in minutes." Chen exchanged glances with her team, feigning concern while activating the subdermal communication implant with a subtle movement of her jaw. "That's certainly impressive technology," she acknowledged. "Perhaps we should discuss terms." "There are no terms to discuss," Nilith responded. "There is only acceptance of Confederation authority or—" She was interrupted by an alarm from one of her companions. The alien checked a device on its forearm and chittered something in its native language. "Impossible," Nilith said, switching back to English. "Your orbital defenses are activating. You have no technology capable of." Chen smiled for the first time. "I think there's been a misunderstanding about Earth's capabilities, Science Officer Nilith. Perhaps your initial assessment was incomplete. Around the Earth, hundreds of seemingly ordinary satellites simultaneously shed their mundane exteriors, revealing advanced weapon platforms and defense systems. The ISS itself began to transform, sections of its structure reconfiguring to reveal technology far beyond what the Confederation had observed." "What is this deception?" Nilith demanded, her composure fracturing. "Not deception," Chen corrected. "Prudence. Earth has been aware of the Confederation for a very long time. We've been preparing accordingly." On cue, A shimmer of energy enveloped the space station, a defense shield that should have been centuries beyond human capability. "I recommend you return to your vessel," Chen continued calmly, "and inform High Commander Vazix that Earth respectfully declines his offer of incorporation. We are, however, open to discussing equal diplomatic relations between our civilizations." Nilith's four eyes blinked rapidly, and what humans had learned was an expression of shock. You knew about us." "How?" "Let's just say we've had friends in the galaxy longer than you realized," Chen replied. "The universe is bigger than the Confederation, and not all advanced species share your approach to first contact." As if to punctuate her statement, alarms began blaring from the alien delegation's communication devices. One of Nilith's companions spoke urgently in their native language. "The High Commander demands your immediate surrender," Nilith translated, though her voice lacked conviction. "He has authorized full military response." Chen's expression hardened. "Then I suggest you return to your ship immediately. What happens next will not be pleasant for the Confederation fleet." As the alien delegation hurriedly retreated to their shuttle, Chen activated her communication implant again. "All EDI units, this is Commander Chen. The diplomatic approach has failed, as expected. Initiate Ultimatum Protocol. Phase 2. I repeat, Ultimatum Protocol is now active." Across Earth, and in hidden facilities throughout the solar system, humanity's true technological might began to awaken. The Confederation had made a grave miscalculation. They had assumed Earth was showing them everything it had. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Above the planet, the inevitable Dominion powered up its weapons systems, preparing to teach these unexpectedly defiant humans a lesson about galactic realities. High Commander Vazix watched with anticipation as the targeting computers locked onto Earth's suddenly revealed defense platforms. "Fire at will," he ordered. "Show them the futility of resistance." The Confederation's energy weapons lanced out toward Earth's orbital defenses, only to encounter something that, according to all their intelligence, shouldn't exist for centuries on this world. A planetary defense shield that absorbed their attacks with minimal strain. And then, emerging from behind Earth's moon, came humanity's response, a fleet of warships that had been hidden from Confederation sensors by technology that should have been impossible for humans to possess. The real first contact war was about to begin. Revelation. High Commander Vazix stared in disbelief at the tactical display. What should have been a simple show of force had turned into a nightmare. The human vessels, sleek, angular ships that seemed to phase in and out of normal space, were executing maneuvers that defied the Confederation's understanding of physics. "Impossible," he whispered as another of his cruisers reported critical shield failure. "They're primitives. They were supposed to be primitives." His second-in-command, War Director Kizoth, frantically analyzed the incoming data. "High Commander, their technology, it's not consistent with any known development path. They appear to have quantum-entangled propulsion systems and some form of gravitational weaponry we've never encountered." "How?" Vazix demanded, slamming his primary appendage against the command console. "Their satellites were primitive. Their communications were basic. Their space station was held together with outdated materials. A deception." Kizoth replied grimly. "A deliberate one. They wanted us to underestimate them." On the main view screen, another Confederation vessel erupted in a brilliant flash as its reactor containment failed. The human ships moved with impossible precision, targeting weak points that should have been unknown to any species outside the Confederation. "Retreat," Vazix ordered, his pride finally giving way to survival instinct. "Signal the fleet to regroup at the outer system marker." "High Commander," the communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the human command vessel." Vazix hesitated, then nodded. The screen shifted to show Commander Ilara Chen, seated calmly in what was clearly an advanced command center. "High Commander Vazix," she greeted him with a slight nod. "I trust we've made our position clear." Vazix struggled to maintain his composure. "Your deception changes nothing. This is merely the first engagement. The Confederation has thousands of vessels, millions of warriors. We will return in force. Chen's expression remained unchanged. I'm transmitting data to your systems now. Please review it carefully before making threats you cannot fulfill. The tactical console chimed as it received the transmission. Kezoth reviewed it, his exoskeleton paling to a sickly gray. High Commander, they've mapped our entire fleet deployment throughout the galaxy. They have the locations of all our major worlds, our shipyards, our defense installations. That's not possible, Vazix insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. We've had faster-than-light observation capabilities for over 50 years, Chen explained. We've been watching the Confederation for decades, documenting your expansion, your tactics, your technology. We know exactly how you subjugate species that refuse to join your benevolent empire. She leaned forward slightly. But more importantly, we know about the Arcturus campaign and what you did to the last species that successfully resisted you. Vazix went completely still. The Arcturus campaign was classified at the highest levels of the Confederation. No primitive species should have any knowledge of it. You're bluffing, he said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. The Arturians didn't die out as your historical records claim, Chen continued. Some escaped. They found Earth. They warned us about you, and they helped us prepare. On the tactical display, more information appeared. Detailed schematics of Confederation technology, defense codes, communication protocols, information that could only have come from deep within the Confederation itself. This is the Ultimatum Protocol, Chen explained. Our response to any hostile first contact. We present a primitive facade, allow the aggressors to underestimate us, then reveal our true capabilities only when necessary. It served us well in our own conflicts on Earth, and now it serves us in our first interstellar war. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden infrastructure was now fully activated. What the Confederation had perceived as a handful of primitive outposts on Mars and the Moon were in fact the visible tips of massive underground complexes housing millions of people and automated manufacturing facilities. In Earth orbit, the true international defense platform shed its disguise, revealing a massive installation that served as the command center for hundreds of defense satellites. From hidden hangars on the far side of the Moon, additional warships emerged, taking up defensive positions around Earth. General Santos stood in the Lunar Command Center, monitoring the deployment. All defense grids online, Commander Chen. The Arcturus protocols are functioning perfectly. On the view screen, Chen nodded from her position on the flagship Defiance. The Confederation fleet is in disarray. Their command structure isn't designed to handle surprises of this magnitude. Should we press the advantage? Santos asked. We could cripple their entire expeditionary force. Chen considered this. No, we've made our point. Destroying their fleet would only ensure the full Confederation comes down on us eventually. We need them to return home with the message that Earth is not to be trifled with. Back on the inevitable Dominion, Vazix was frantically consulting with his strategic AI. There must be a weakness, some vulnerability we can exploit. The AI's response was not comforting. Analysis indicates human technology in several key areas exceeds Confederation capabilities by an estimated 30 to 70 years of development. Their quantum integration systems have no analog in our technical database. How is this possible? Vazix demanded. Their public broadcasts, their visible infrastructure, everything suggested a Type 1 civilization barely reaching into their own system. Evidence suggests a deliberate information strategy. The AI replied. Human entertainment broadcasts contain numerous references to alien invasion scenarios. They may have been psychologically preparing their population while maintaining technological secrecy. Kaizoth approached, his posture deferential. High Commander, we've completed our analysis of their fleet positioning. They have us surrounded, but they're maintaining a defensive formation only. They could have destroyed half our fleet by now if that was their intention. Vazix stared at the tactical display, forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. They're showing restraint. Why? Incoming transmission from the human flagship, the communications officer announced. Commander Chen appeared on screen again. High Commander, we've transmitted all necessary evidence of our capabilities. We have no desire for prolonged conflict with the Confederation. Unlike you, we don't believe stronger civilizations should subjugate others simply because they can. What do you want? Vazix asked, his usual confidence shattered. Recognition of Earth and the Sol system as sovereign territory, exempt from Confederation expansion. A formal non-aggression pact, and open diplomatic relations as equals, not as conquerors and subjects. Vazix glanced at Kizoth, who gave the subtle gesture indicating agreement was their only viable option. The Confederation Council will need to approve any formal treaty. Of course, Chen replied. We'll escort your remaining vessels to the system boundary. You have 48 hours to depart with your fleet. We expect diplomatic representatives to return within 30 Earth days to begin formal negotiations. The transmission ended, leaving Vazix staring at his reflection in the darkened screen. For the first time in his long career, he had encountered a species that had completely outwitted the Confederation's first contact protocols. In the secure conference room deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Commander Chen briefed the actual world leaders on the outcome of the encounter. The Confederation fleet is retreating. Our analysis suggests they'll respect our show of force, at least for now. Their entire expansion model is based on quick subjugation of unprepared worlds. They don't have the strategic doctrine to handle what just happened. The President of the United States nodded. And the Arturian projections. Still holding, Chen confirmed. They predicted the Confederation would attempt diplomatic solutions once confronted with superior technology. Their society is fundamentally hierarchical. They respect strength above all else. So we've earned a seat at the table, the Chinese premier observed. The question now is what we do with it. Chen activated the holographic display, showing a three-dimensional map of known galactic civilizations based on Arturian intelligence. This was never just about defending Earth. The Arturians showed us the bigger picture. The Confederation is just one of several expanding powers in our galactic neighborhood. Some are worse, some potentially better. And now we've revealed ourselves, the European Federation Chancellor said. For better or worse, humanity has announced its presence on the galactic stage. On our terms, Chen emphasized. That was always the goal of the Ultimatum Protocol. Not just to defend against the first contact, but to ensure we entered galactic politics from a position of strength. The room fell silent as the implications settled in. Humanity had successfully navigated its first interstellar crisis, but everyone present knew this was just the beginning. 3 months later, Commander Chen stood in the newly constructed diplomatic reception center in Geneva, watching as the first official Confederation diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere. General Santos joined her, dressed in formal military attire rather than the combat gear that had become his uniform during the crisis. Hard to believe we're here. When the Arturians first crashed that ship in 47, no one could have imagined this outcome. They knew what they were doing, Chen replied. They recognized something in us that the Confederation missed. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our paranoia. Santos laughed. Thousands of years of fighting each other, preparing for enemies that might never come. And when they did come, Chen continued, we were ready, because we've been imagining alien invasions for centuries. We've been rehearsing this moment in our fiction, our games, our military planning. The honeypot strategy worked because it played into the Confederation's arrogance. The Confederation vessel touched down on the landing pad, its design notably different from the warships they had encountered, more ceremonial, less threatening. What do you think they'll make of the truth? Santos asked. That most of humanity was completely unaware of the Arturians, the defense program, all of it. Chen smiled. I think they'll be even more confused. The idea that a small group of humans could maintain such a massive secret from the rest of their own species for decades will challenge their understanding of how societies function. And the unified response. All nations suddenly revealing coordinated defense systems. Another thing the Confederation failed to understand about humans, Chen replied. We may fight amongst ourselves constantly, but we've always been remarkably good at unifying against an outside threat. As the diplomatic delegation emerged from their vessel, Chen straightened her uniform. The real work begins now. The Arturians warned us about the political complexities of the galactic community. The Confederation is just the beginning. At least we'll be negotiating from a position of strength, Santos observed. Strength tempered with wisdom, Chen corrected. The Arturians were clear about that too. They didn't help us because they wanted us to become conquerors like the Confederation. They helped us because they saw potential for something better. The alien diplomats approached, their postures notably more deferential than during the first encounter. Leading the human delegation forward, Commander Chen prepared to guide humanity's first steps into a much larger universe, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals who had earned their place among the stars through preparation, innovation, and the quintessentially human trait of expecting the worst while hoping for the best. Behind her, hidden in plain sight throughout the solar system, humanity's true strength remained vigilant. The ultimatum protocol had served its purpose, but it remained active, ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at Earth next. Because if humanity had learned anything from its long history of conflicts, it was that peace was best maintained when strength remained evident but restrained. And now, that philosophy would be tested on a galactic scale. In a secure facility beneath the lunar surface, a team of scientists and engineers gathered around a holographic projection of the Milky Way. Highlighted in various colors were the territories of known galactic powers, with the Confederation's expansive domain marked in red. Dr. Elena Chandra, lead researcher of the Arturian Integration Project, addressed the assembled team. The Confederation encounter went exactly as the Arturians predicted. Their psychological profile of expansionist empires was remarkably accurate. And Phase 3? Asked one of the military liaisons. Chandra smiled. Already underway. While the diplomats negotiate in Geneva, our deep space telescopes are mapping the territories beyond Confederation space. The Arturians were clear. There are older, more advanced civilizations out there. Some potential allies, some potential threats. And the Quantum Gate project. On schedule, Chandra confirmed. Within 5 years, we'll have the capability to reach the Arturian refugee colonies in the Andromeda galaxy. They've waited a long time for us to join them. The holographic display shifted, zooming out to show both the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, connected by a pulsing line representing the planned Quantum Gate network. The Confederation thought they were initiating first contact with Earth, Chandra said, her voice filled with quiet determination. They had no idea they were actually witnessing humanity's second contact. And if the Arturians are right about what's coming from the galactic core. She didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone in the room understood the stakes. The ultimatum protocol had never been just about defending Earth from the Confederation. It was preparation for something much bigger. Humanity had passed its first test, but the true challenges of galactic citizenship were only beginning.